Hello everybody and welcome back to Kat's Corner. My name is Kat and this is my corner of YouTube. Today is my third time trying to film this episode of My Back Brace and Me, in which we will be talking about the emotional pain during and after getting a back brace and how to cope with it. Hey guys, Editing Kat here. I want to put a disclaimer before anything that this is my personal journey and I'm going to be sharing a lot of personal details today, including some heavier topics such as suicide, self-harm, and eating disorders. These do all correlate with my back brace, and I feel that they are important to talk about, but if you are someone who's going to be easily upset by this, or if you are watching with children, or if you are a child and you don't think it's appropriate for you to watch, or you maybe don't even know what I'm talking about, please just click off this video or proceed with caution, because about halfway through things start to get a little bit more intense and deep. Today I am going to be setting up this video in somewhat of a unique fashion. I have tried doing it in a more structured way in the past few times I've filmed, and I just felt like it wasn't personal and it felt very dry and stale. I'm going to be sharing with you guys my personal journey and story with my back brace, and a little bit of my parents' journey, and kind of telling you guys coping skills and about the emotions you may be struggling with through my journey, because it was a journey. I wore my back brace for pretty much 10 years, from 3 days before I turned 7 till almost 16 years old. So about 9 years, but still it was a very long time, and it was quite a journey because you change a lot from the age of 7 to 15. One of the biggest emotions that I think encompassed my back brace experience would be anger, and it's a very understandable emotion. I mean, everything in my life changed. My entire routine, my entire physical self, everything was different, starting with this back brace, and it was so frustrating. I no longer couldn't wear clothes, or that's not how English works. I no longer could wear clothes like everyone else. I had to wear plus size clothing, and there's nothing wrong with that. But for me, as, you know, an insecure little girl, I felt I felt like I stuck out, like I didn't fit in anywhere, and like I wasn't beautiful, and I had a lot of insecurities about myself and the way that people looked at me. And this was angering. I remember I hated going shopping for clothes, and actually in a future video I'm going to be talking more extensively about shopping and the process of picking out clothes and hacks and stuff for when you're wearing a back brace, because it really is a huge shift. Tight clothing is no longer a thing, and when I was in elementary school in the early 2000s, as many people have remembered, it was a very interesting fashion period, but the low-rise jeans and the skimpy tops and all that was very popular, and especially name brand items. Abercrombie, Aeropostale, Gilly Hicks? Yeah, Gilly Hicks, you know, all those stores, and I couldn't fit into any of their clothing. It was too slim and skinny cut, and so I bought all my clothes at Kohl's, Target, JCPenney, and I liked my clothing. Especially as I got older, I really developed a sense of style that I was very comfortable with, but I did know that I stuck out, you know? I did not fit in with everyone else. Everyone was able to wear these really popular brands, and I couldn't. And not only did I feel lonely, but I felt embarrassed. And when everyone was talking about, you know, going shopping and stuff like that, I would never want to do it because I didn't want to admit to people what size of clothing I wore, and I didn't want them to realize like what my back brace kind of looked like under everything. And that, I feel like, is a very relatable feeling because girls and just people in general feel very insecure at a young age. And when you have something that physically sets you apart from the rest of the crowd, that can be really challenging because you're like, I just want to fit in. I don't want to stick out. You just want to blend in with your background. But it's hard to do that when you literally stick out. But that's okay. You know, something I did learn throughout it was to be confident with my own style. And that's something that I am so grateful for. You know, if there's one thing that my back brace really taught me how to if there's one thing that my back brace really taught me, it was to be confident in who I am as a person and to develop my own unique personality and to not let other people's styles, preferences, trends, and so forth define who I am as a person, because nobody gets to define who I am. And so that's something that I would encourage you guys. It's really hard to stick out or to feel like you can't fit in, but it's something you can't change right now. And because you can't change it, you're either going to learn how to adapt to it or you're going to be miserable. And something I never did was learn how to handle my emotions when I was little. I just stuffed everything down, and as embarrassment, loneliness, guilt, anger, sadness, grief, loss, hopelessness, overwhelmedness, that's not English either. As all those emotions built up and up and up, I just stuffed them down because I didn't want to feel them, and I didn't want to admit to people that something was going on inside, because I didn't want to be seen as weak and I didn't want people to think I was vulnerable. But I think that's a common trap that we fall into as a society, thinking that emotions make us weak and that vulnerability is a bad thing. Because let me tell you, it is not. And that is my number one coping skill, to tell all of you guys. Express your emotions. If you're sad, let yourself cry. If you're embarrassed, it's okay to be embarrassed. If you feel lonely, let it happen. You know, all these emotions, while they are unpleasant to feel, they are healthy emotions, especially when you express them. Because if you just stuff them down or dwell on them endlessly, it's gonna build and create this huge ball of emotions that you can no longer keep under control. My parents also felt a lot of guilt because, as I've discussed previously, you know, the back brace is not the most comfortable thing. You get hot, you get sweaty, you get sores, it's uncomfortable, you can't do things the way you used to. And I was so pissed off. I was so mad that I couldn't do things the way I used to be able to. And my parents felt so guilty because they blamed themselves for having to enforce me wearing this thing that at the end of the day hurt a lot. And for the parents here who are watching, let me tell you this. You're doing this out of the goodness and the kindness of your heart. And while it really sucks to see your child in pain and anyone that you love in pain, you're having your kid wear this because otherwise they would need surgery. And if they need surgery, they need it because it's going to benefit them. Their life is going to improve because of this, not decrease in quality. And I think that's something that's really hard, is to base our physical experiences on reality. Because when we're really uncomfortable, or when we see people that are really uncomfortable that we love, we must think that something's wrong, that we're doing something wrong, or that, like for me, I often felt really guilty too, because I felt like I was putting my parents at an inconvenience, and I knew they felt guilty, and so I felt bad. I felt like I was a burden on them. And for the people out there who are struggling with feelings of being a burden, or that you're wasting your parents' money or time or resources, or you feel like, it's all your fault, whether you're a parent or the person wearing the brace, it's not your fault. And that's the one beauty about a physical thing that we literally have no control of, is you can't control it. And while that may feel so overwhelming and something that you just is so hard to grasp and grapple and understand, your bones in your back are doing this all on their own. You did not determine to have a back brace or to need surgery or to have scoliosis in the first place. So it's literally not in your control. And that can lead to feelings of overwhelmed and hopeless, and just the feeling of being out of control is uncomfortable. And in America, we have a culture that tells us be in control of everything. If you're not in control, there's something wrong. But it's not a realistic viewpoint to go with, and you're just going to be miserable if all you keep thinking is, I want to be in control, because your back won't be in control. You can do disciplined wearing of your brace, you can do all the exercises and everything, but at the end of the day, if you end up having to have surgery, or if you have to wear your brace for an extended period of time like I did, that's just how the dice rolls. And while that can be like super unpleasant, it's also something that can strengthen you. And I had to learn at a really young age how to stand up for myself. And when people would pick on me, because let's just be real, kids are brutal and bullying will happen. Because when people see someone who's different, they point it out and they may make you miserable. Now, hey, you may not get bullied, and that is an amazing thing. But I want to be realistic and say that, hey, I was bullied, and a lot of other people are bullied for these physical issues that they have. And you know what? That doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. That doesn't mean your brace is a bad thing. It doesn't mean that you're a bad thing or that you should change in any way. It means that someone else is insecure and is picking on your insecurities to make them feel better. And while that may be the world's most cliche thing, it's so true. And I realized this when I had some boys that would constantly pick on me in middle school. They would knock on my back brace, or they would throw stuff against my back brace because I couldn't really feel it half of the time. And so I would just hear it and be like, what? Or they would constantly pester me with questions like, why are you wearing a brace? What's your brace for? Why are you wearing a brace? What's your brace for? When are you getting it off? You're not getting it off soon? Oh, And they would just constantly go at it, and I would get so annoyed. But at a certain point I realized, I was like, they're looking for a reaction. That's what the world's looking for when people are bullying. And I learned later down the line that especially one of these boys had a really rough home life. It was not a good place. It was not a positive place. And he was carrying a lot of baggage with him. And it really gave me a different perspective, because I had always grown up thinking that these people were just mean, or that something was wrong with me, and I felt worthless and stupid and ugly. But the reality is that everyone is struggling, and some people don't know how to handle their pain, so they take it out on other people. And that's why coping methods are so important. Because if we don't learn how to handle our emotions through, self-care and mindfulness and self-compassion, maybe even therapy, then it could lead us into a place of hurting someone else or causing discomfort for another person. And that's not something that we want to do. learning how to express your emotions through a medium that isn't just talking to someone is also very important, because you got all these deep emotions and personal thoughts going on that can get really dark, really overwhelming, really anxiety provoking, and if they stay trapped in your head, it can just spiral and spiral and spiral, and suddenly you're laying on your bed in the middle of middle school going, I want to self-harm. And honestly, that's a thought that I had, and I have battled with mental health since I was a freshman in high school, and I've struggled with suicidal thoughts, self-harm, eating disorders, the whole gambit. And a lot of it comes from the fact that I buried everything that happened to me through the back brace and other things that have happened in my past. But I wish I'd gone to therapy as a kid. I wish someone had noticed that I had anxiety and that I had a lot of inner turmoil that I wasn't processing. Because as a young kid, how do you know how to grieve? You're going through this huge change, this major change in your life, this loss of the person you used to be and this transition into the person you are now, and that is, oh my gosh, how do you handle that? A little kid doesn't know how to handle that, and so in many cases they just don't. But parents, if you know that your kid's about to get a back brace, or if you notice that they've gotten a back brace and maybe things aren't going great, maybe think about putting them in therapy. Not for a long time, unless they need it, but even just for a session or two. Let them talk about it with someone that can understand it, or at least sympathize and be like, hey, what if you do this? What if we try doing this when we're angry? Or when we're sad, why don't we try doing this? Because at the end of the day, I am not a therapist yet. I hope to be a play therapist someday and work with children who have really tough pasts and, a lot of problems, but I don't know your direct situation. And so if you're in any state of crisis, or if you're a parent and you're just feeling so overwhelmed and you don't know what to do, and you're just so frazzled, see a therapist. There is nothing to be ashamed of about getting help, seeing a therapist, and admitting that, hey, I'm not doing too great. Because at the end of the day, most of us aren't doing too great. And if we try and deny these feelings, the feelings don't go away. You just stop acknowledging them. And that's not beneficial. Now, other emotions such as loneliness, embarrassment, jealousy, stuff like that, stuff that has a lot of social meaning to it and a lot of pressure on our self-worth, that's something that you need to take seriously. Self-care and self-compassion are two huge coping skills that do take a while to figure out and learn, but are something that's so crucial. Learning how to take care of myself was something I was not good at as a kid. I always put other people first. I always focused on other people's needs, and especially as a parent or a caretaker, it's easy to totally neglect yourself and to focus completely on your kid or the people you take care of. And that's not good, because your kids are going to learn how to deal with their emotions by watching you. And if you don't know how to handle your emotions, or if you're demonstrating unhealthy emotional health, that's what they're gonna adapt. So if you're a parent and you're feeling frustrated and angry, let your kid see you experience it. Don't lash out on your kid by any means, because that can create feelings of guilt and, embarrassment, self-loathing, worthlessness. But, let your kids see that, hey, mommy's feeling angry, so she's gonna go work out now. Or mommy's painting because she's frustrated. Or mommy needs to go into the other room because she's going crazy. And all these things help a child learn how to handle their emotions indirectly. And self-compassion is just letting yourself feel. the way you feel. You know, it's hard to think like, oh, okay, I'll just let myself feel the way I feel. But it's so important because you as an individual, everything you feel is valid. And it can be hard. It can feel like, you know, I shouldn't be feeling like this. You know, I don't deserve to feel like this. But your emotions are valid, and letting yourself feel them and then move on is so important. And learning how to take care of yourself, such as learning when to take a break, how to treat yourself in a proper way, how to not just beat yourself up, but to take time for yourself. You know, maybe you're a little bit older and you're feeling super insecure and you just kind of hate yourself. Maybe go get a manicure. I get my manicure and I feel great. I'm like, oh, look at me. I'm so put together. And it's a little thing that I like. I like putting on my makeup. I like looking nice. It's something that brightens my day. And so I do it when I feel crappy. I also use like stress toys, like squishies and putty and all sorts of different fidget toys. I'm going to be linking a ton of stuff in the description box. Different anxiety, stress relieving toys, self-soothe toys, different articles about self-compassion and self-care, all sorts of different things. I'm also going to be linking crisis hotlines and therapy apps and websites and hotlines and all sorts of stuff like that, because it can get dark. And even if you're a kid, it can get dark. I struggled with a lot of dark emotions starting at a really young age, but I didn't really know how to handle it. And so when I got older, those emotions exploded. And I fell apart into a gajillion pieces. I'm still finding pieces, like behind me, over there, behind my ears, everywhere. And sometimes those thoughts can get really dark and really dangerous. And if that's the case, don't just sit with those emotions. Get help. I can't help you through the screen right now, but the hotlines that I'm going to be linking down below, those are people that will talk you through it. And if you don't think you can confide with anyone in your life, find someone you can. Whether it's a teacher, a doctor, a therapist, someone on a crisis line, a friend, a relative, your parents, a sibling, somebody. It is so important to have somebody knowing what's going on, especially if you're getting into those deep, dark thoughts that are kind of scary and kind of dangerous, because when we're left to cope on our own devices, it can be challenging, and especially if we're in a really angry, sad, grieving, depressed place, we may not know exactly how to handle it. You know, when I was growing up, I had a lot of different friend struggles. And so as I got older, I began to associate a lot of my social issues and unstable friendships and lack of a boyfriend, because that was a big thing for me, and I feel like it is for a lot of people, you know, lack of a significant other, even if you're like 12 and you literally can't date. But all those things really impacted me, and I began to believe that it was my back brace's fault. I began to believe, you know, like, I'm just ugly, and my back brace makes me ugly. And so when I got my back brace off, I went down a dangerous road of not eating and trying to be as skinny as possible, because I had always thought of myself as fat, because people would call me fat, and if other people think I'm fat, then I must be fat. But let me tell you this right now, you're not. And your back brace is just a covering. It's like an undershirt or a bra or a dress. It's just an article of clothing. And is it made of plastic and styrofoam? Yes. And does it add a little bit of, you know, padding to you? Yes. But it by no means makes you ugly or fat. You are beautiful just the way you are, and you're made in such a perfect way, even if your body likes to tell you otherwise. And so I wish I had someone I could tell all these feelings to when I was a kid. And I did. I never told any of my friends. I didn't tell my parents. The only time they would see like these emotions coming out is when I'd get really, really angry and just kind of lose my cool and, you know, scream and cry and talk about how I never wanted my back brace and it was terrible and horrible and miserable and blah. And it can feel like that, you know? And it's totally valid, but it's kind of more healthy to get those emotions out when you initially feel them rather than waiting until you just burst, because it caused a lot of anger issues for me, and I snapped on people, and I was a bitter human being. And through lots of therapy, I've learned a lot, and I've figured out a lot about myself. When you're in an emotional place and you look forward and you see no end, and you just see that someday you'll get your brace off, maybe you'll have to get therapy, maybe you won't, that can be really overwhelming and really freaky and just hopeless. It can feel really hopeless. I know for me it was like, as a young kid, I just didn't see an end to it. I couldn't even picture myself growing up to be old, to like get to an adult. And you know, I did have I did have some other traumatic situations occur to me when I was a kid. Really? Trying to talk about emotions, and my computer keeps giving me notifications about Facebook. Okay. You know, and yeah, I had some other stuff going on, but I didn't realize my thought patterns were unhealthy. I didn't realize that as a kid, not seeing yourself living past the age of 18 wasn't normal. And so I just kept it inside. And that's why I encourage parents to maybe put your kid in therapy once or twice. Or if you're noticing like a reoccurring pattern of things, just put them in therapy once or twice. They may hate it. It may not benefit them at all. And that's fine. Don't force them to keep going, unless of course their life is in danger, and then do so. However, sometimes like, I originally thought, like, I don't need therapy, I don't want to go to therapy. I was 14, I was sassy, I was like, please, there's nothing wrong with me. I get to therapy and my therapist was like, ah, you know? she was like, ooh, we have a lot to deal with. And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't feel things, I have no emotions, nothing's wrong. And then the more and more I talk, yeah, I've got a lot of problems, you know, and not all of it's the brace, and I don't want this video to scare anybody. I don't want this video to scare anybody away or to think that, you know, hey, I'm about to get a brace and I'm about to suffer for the next however many months or years I have this. That's not my intention of this video. My intention of this video is to, one, give solace to anybody who is experiencing these things and these emotions and being like, nobody understands me, nobody gets what I'm going through. I'm such a freak for feeling this way, because you're not. In no way, shape, or form are you a freak for feeling your feelings. And I also want to give just a realistic perspective of being like, you know, it's not gonna be all dandy and fine, and that's really hard, and I know it's really hard to see that and hear that and think that, but I had no idea what was gonna hit me when I got my brace. I had no clue about all the things that were gonna change in my life. I had no idea all the, you know, things that I were gonna have to shake up, or how I was gonna really just have to change my identity as a person, and not everyone may feel like that, but I felt like that, and I felt like I had to. And I wasn't prepared, and it kinda took me by surprise. And so I want to put a realistic perspective out there, and for the parents out there who are like, I don't know why my kid is so upset, I don't know what to do. I get it, you know, like, I didn't know what to do either, and neither did my parents, and that's okay. Not knowing what to do, not knowing how to function as an adult or a child is totally normal. And that's another thing, just you gotta give yourself mercy and grace somewhere along the line, because nobody's perfect. Hannah Montana said it first. Nobody's perfect. We live and we learn it. Okay. That was bad. That was really bad. But seriously, no one's perfect. No one's going to experience these things in a perfect manner. No one's going to handle their emotions in a perfect way. And you just got to give yourself a little room to make mistakes, feel crappy, and keep going. Because we live in a perfectionistic society that is really all about, you know, like, you go get it, girl, like, do your thing, achieve success, you know, earn that money, be famous. You've got 9-year-olds that have more money than I will ever earn in my entire existence. And that is hard to see, especially for kids growing up. And I would know this because I work with kids all the time. And a lot of the older kids are like, well, I wish I was like that, or I wish I was like this. And those are normal thoughts. But it can be really easy to slip into this thought pattern of, I'm not good enough. If I was like that person, I would be so much better. And that's just not true. If you were somebody else, you would not be you. And you were meant to be you. You were made to be you and nobody else. Nobody else can be you. And I used to think that my brace was just this burden that I would never gain anything from. And as the years have gone on, like, yeah, it kind of sucks. Like, I wonder what it would be like if I hadn't had my brace. But at the same time, I wouldn't be making these videos. I wouldn't have been able to help out in a support group for kids with back braces and their parents. I wouldn't have the experiences that I have now. And it's the experiences that I have that are leading me into the therapy field and helping a lot of kids. And that might never have happened if I hadn't had the experiences that I've had. And I'd like to think that's a good thing. I'd like to think that my back brace gave me a push into the realm of helping people, because I know how tough and hard my experience was, and so I don't want other people to feel like that. If you guys are struggling in any way, shape, or form, please get the help you need. If you're in a crisis, 911, crisis lines, call your therapist, go to the ER, something. Leave in the comment section down below any video ideas you guys may have, any thoughts. If you think this video was helpful, let me know. If you think, Catherine, you seriously need to be more structured, let me know. If you want to have me cover a specific topic, let me know. I've covered specific topics for people before in the past. And so, you know what? Yeah, give this video a like, because this is the 3rd time I've filmed it, and I'm tired of filming the same video over and over and over. And, you know, hit that little subscribe button. I think it's going to be here, because if I flip it, I think. So hit that subscribe button if you want to see more videos from me. I'm going to be posting a vlog too. It may already be up. I may post it after this. I don't know. And yeah, I'm hoping to get back onto a regular schedule. If you want to know kind of why my videos have been very spread out and not regular, I will link the blog right here or right here. one of these two places. And yeah, other than that, I hope you guys are having a fabulous morning, night, day, evening, afternoon, wherever you may be, and I can't wait to see all you fabulous, fabulous, fabulous people in the next one. Bye, guys!